Hello everyone. Hello everyone. The title of today's episode is Beauty of Materiality. And for an instant, I just want to take your attention to a simple branch of a tree. And we begin to see that the stem is an individual intention, which then it extends into the leaf. And if we were to say that the leaf was the whole cosmos or our universe or our experience, we begin to see that it's all going to a singular understanding, as if this reality, causality, was made from one intention in an instant, but then we can't see it. It's as if once we are going back towards the roots, we are seeing that reality doesn't make sense. The intention is again singular, but in another greater singular. And suddenly we go find that as we're going back from the branch towards the roots, we're suddenly seeing, oh wow, there's another leaf, another singular intentions. And it's as if it's very interesting that we are in a world where the cosmos is weaved between a sense of being full and empty. There is an existential emptiness, and it's a hollowness of your awareness. But this awareness is hollow in form, it's empty in form, but it is, in a sense, full in formless presence, formless existential observance. So spirituality should not be a concept for you, it should be how you are experiencing the self, the self-awareness beyond just an objective view, you know? So it's as if we are seeing that we want to acknowledge the whole tree rather than saying it's just the leaf and beyond that one stem we don't know and we don't want to pursue. No, we must see the intelligence is innately present, that the leaf, its design has come from what was the knowing of the seed. So when we are looking at the beauty of materiality, we are seeing how the four elements were extended through an intention, through an instant, we don't even need to use the word one, but just instant cause. It's as if the cause never stopped, so there's never just an effect. All effects are temporal. Meaning that the tree grows. This experience, individual experience we have of this material universe grows, meaning that consciousness is not just having an ability to experience in one body of physicality, regardless of how the apparatus and the instrument is made, but also to see that what is playing the instrument is more. Whether we can, and there's two possibilities here, of course, that it is the mind of a man who is exploring or remembering that there never was a body, or it's a body becoming mind. And what that means is you find that the subjective and objective relationship that you are observing is, in a sense, the presence is beyond the personality, which is judging that value of the world. And this presence is an existential, experiential presence. So stop looking for Casper's best friend, but rather see how significant the design of your moment is, any moment. And you will see how when certain mystics said they don't carry knowledge, like they don't have to learn knowledge, like, how do I say it, like constantly carry books of knowledge with them. In a sense, they travel light and they are empty, so they have no opinion. And once they are in that empty view, when they go in any moment, any condition, a problem occurs, they are always that, how do I say it, collective observance of every individual action in their experience. So what that means is the human communicator is aware that it's all human communication, but the awareness to human communication is beyond the definitions of humanity. And so it's very crucial to acknowledge this nature of being as attention, divine attention. What you are paying attention to is suggesting the forms of your consideration. And these forms of a consideration are being taken based on how you see yourself. So self-inquiry is as important as you trying to do an other inquiry and looking at information from outside. So the information is innately present in how novelty is the answer. You know? One thing I know that we need to, you as a being need to be very playful with ideology. Because you will be limited if you're not. The seriousness will make you bring that reality into your focus. The playfulness must come from a sense of trust of the whole system. So whatever your system of intelligence is, whatever you're considering it, don't leave it out. Don't just say, I'm the intelligent being here, everything else is empty, the universe is empty. Rather see that your intelligence is coming from how you're aware of things. So in being aware of a thing, you are an existential observer and observance that is no thing, it's nothing. So what that means is the ideas are not the point. The ideas are just the platform of how much this plane allows man to speak. What that means is regardless of how much freedom of speech man gets, there is a certain barrier that certain communications cannot just come into this plane. Meaning that the information is the filter. Know the information as yourself and you will see all that the information will suggest will be the spark within you. Would be that moment where materiality was suggesting all that was observing materiality. Mankind must explore the nature of his attention, the nature of his awareness, self-awareness, the nature of his memory and remembrance, and not to keep these in an abstract sense where we are limited to the very slow steps of psychology. Psychology is I think, trying to at first understand itself. That's why constantly you have to go read the terms. You know, psychology is first. It's, you know, there are certain teachers who they listen first before they speak. You know, I find psychology is just like giving the answer before it's heard the question. So we must not, again, have the dependence only on externality, but in how we are seeing what is external. And don't be afraid of anything. Fear is a catalyst. What else could it be? It's a catalyst, you know. Regardless, it is giving you an attention to this plane of existence. But the pilot of consciousness must see that every elevation is in its experience. It is a collective knowing which has a very individual, unknown expression. What that means is synchronicity is how naturally you are playing with this life as life. You know. And it's very important because we need to develop new windows in these old structures of thought, which pretty much are humanity's mistake, because in our acknowledgement of self, we have taken a wrong acceptance of reality as the basis. And of course, this is a very bold statement, but maybe it's bold because you need to pay attention to it. You know, they create that Microsoft option. The beauty of materiality in regards to a mystic's view, and let's say it like this. You go to your local park or somewhere in nature, you sit down, you are still and silent and aware of your being. As you are, you begin to look at what physicality means. What that means is don't think in meditation you just have to go close your eyes first. Actually, they should do open eye meditation first. First, look at something. Go look at something and just don't be disturbed. Just have your attention on it and see what that means. Once we observe physicality, we see that physicality begins the moment our eyes are open. And it is the objectivity that is in your experience. So as if you are touching a leaf and you're seeing that what you're looking out, it's objective. But when you begin to see where this objectivity is, when that profound question comes to meet you, you begin to see that you begin looking at the nature of thought, and the nature of thought is you can't really find your thoughts, but when you go looking for them, you're just the observance of an idea. You see? You're just an observance of a certain image or form. So it's as if the attention of the being is multidimensional because of how the nature of the self-awareness is. When you look out, there's an objective sense. When you look within, when you look internally, there's a subjective senselessness. But when you're aware of both of these, you begin to see their relationship did not have to be in one manner. What that means is the relationship form and formless expression or intelligence have, within one another, as if two sides of the same coin, is at the same time, if they were different people, they could have so many ways to communicate to one another and even not communicate. So our abstraction is within the same fluctuations as our objective reality, because our objective reality is where we are considering the abstract ideas from. So imagination is not imagination, it is real. It is man's awareness to his subtler dimensions, which has not come into a collectively cultural and socially agreed view. But we can develop this. We're each explorers of our nature of being. What that means is, it's as if your task as a human being was to be who you are. And when you look at who you are, it is more than all the considerations and words and definitions and ideas that have come to you. It is just an existential observance. It is a transcendental sense of knowing that regardless, you are here. Its existence self-aware. And so, perhaps the next time we see a volcano, that's the joy of the earth when it sees that you have seen. That all judgments are suggesting how shape was taken into more of a consideration. When you see that you are observing every material phenomena, you begin to see that you're also observing the nature of movement in your vision. And as you're observing the nature of movement, you begin to see that there are many factors to it. Whether we look at our physical grounds of knowledge and see that it is, okay, it's based on, these elements, and there's the periodic table, and there's all this structure and format which has been considered before, or we see that our experience is showing a novel I don't know moment. And this novel I don't know moment is suddenly seeing that what was there is not there before. So what happened? Humanity got a view of absence. What is absence? It is space. What is space? Space is where everything is. So meaning that every instant you are an experience of all that is, in all that is. So it is not about individual form because that's its own story, but rather to see that direct experience must have a freedom to fluctuate naturally, you know? So what that means is parents should not judge, for example, their children because they're natural expressions, just like how a flower grows. You don't care how the flower grows. You know what I mean? You let it grow. So similarly, children too must not then learn from how their parents judge them to then judge their parents. And this awareness gives you a sense of knowing that you must not separate cause and effect. But you must see that it is all known in an instant, that the self-inquiry dissolves into itself. And so the pattern is there, and if it can be observed, if you can observe two patterns at the same time, you are an intelligence beyond those two patterns of intelligence. So when you observe sensory perception, you find yourself innately present in a dynamic state of awareness where the intelligence is not individually conscious. It is collectively conscious. So it's as if the world is aware, is looking through you at itself. And it's just a very profound, clear moment, you know. What that means is it's as if that moment where all words are bowing to the profundity of this expression of a collective knowing, which that word could be used in any other way. The togetherness of man is a great implication that he is remembering. And in his remembrance, we are stepping out of frameworks and ideas, and we are finding all ourselves playful. What that means is, gosh, we stopped playing, and that's wrong. We must explore the nature of ideology. We must explore the nature of our senses, you know. The pilots of consciousness must navigate through many elevations. In other words, if you're a pilot of your own experience, you must see that you can steer this experience into many directions, into many ways, even go within. What that means is your abstraction begins to, in a sense, in an externally acceptable way to you, just fashion itself. And so we won't create a significance that is insignificant for a greater state of being. We will just be great in a state of being, you know? And so the beauty of materiality is the combination of, as they used to say, the four elements. So you are seeing that everything that is present can be connected in relevance to everything else. So you are not limiting knowledge by classifying it. So when that quantum physicist, they asked him about the experiments of quantum physics, he said, see it this way, you know, there is a view of a cheetah that is in a cage, and we're exploring, oh, let's see the nature of this cage, you know, and there's a view of this cheetah in the wild, in its natural state of being. And so you see there are two different realities of experimentation. So even though many beings are saying it's very important to experiment and to be aware of externality, and they are very correct, but it's also very important to see that experimentation has a lot of personal bias. And meaning that the personal bias must see that should it communicate what it sees, or should it accept what has been seen and just accept that? And it's very important that we do not feel limited by one branch of ideology to explore the other branches and then to go to the roots of direct experience. Of course, this is being emphasized a lot because it's crucial. This emphasis is an emphasis of human nature. So what that means is just see that if I'm speaking right now, the way I'm speaking, how I'm speaking, where these words are coming from, are just where life has brought me naturally to here. You cannot judge nature. For you will begin to see that you are an individual part of nature. But your nature of being innately knows where it is. So whether you're seeking a grassland or greener pastures that you feel you are one grass, or you feel you're the whole field, it is up to you to observe how this sense of you is expressive in this reality. And I recommend begin writing your experiences, begin communicating them, and begin to trust life. So Mr. Within finds that a self-aware being is one who is trusting life. So every day since your birth, you should trust life, and in that trust, you will very sincerely and in a very smooth and flowing manner go to your next experiences. But the trust also means that you act true. So that if you're considering an actor, if you're being someone to someone else, you're aware of who you are. You begin to take roles. Existentially, you need to become responsible for many things. That is what meditation does. It makes you existentially responsible for your experience, and gives you an awareness of how consciousness is changing as much as what we are conscious of. But it changes only in the consideration of, let's say, of that part of the spectrum. So let me say it like this. If there's heaven and earth, are applicable only when they're together. Because if there never was an earth, we'd all be in heaven. And if there never was a heaven, we'd all be on earth. And wait a minute, we are on earth. But is there still a heaven? Do you see? So it is, I think Mr. Within finds it's up to the individual that in your beauty of how you find this physical universe, you are seeing that every moment is the inspiration. So you don't need to plan it out. You just need to allow yourself to express, and you'll be more excited by activities. What that means is you have a physical body in your immediate view. That the physical body needs to move, And of course, what is real to you and what is your direct experience is the greatest course of action for you. We are, in a sense, very playfully, from very complex ideas, becoming very simple in our view. And in that simplicity, finding such an empty space to observe any idea that can come into our consideration. And so it's as if we are aligning through as naturally as our breath is inhaling and exhaling, as it's flowing. Because it's very interesting, just if you look at the sounds and the kind of feeling that inhaling and exhaling gives you, it's as if it has a beauty in its movement and elevation, as if you had wings, you are in a sense flying. Do you see? The wings are moving up and down. Your breath is moving in and out. And so you will see that in your attention to your breath, you will begin to observe your breath where it won't be based on in and out. So the classification leaves, the troubled self sleeps, and the true nature awakens into more of I guess physical emanation. Of course, these topics are very abstract. Can be very playful with that.